Welcome to Smart Architectural Programming, and in today's video we'll be breaking down the complex coding concepts into simple digestible lessons, especially relating to the conditional statement, if and else statements in Java. So if you are following along on our YouTube channel, this is the next of our Java Introduction to Java playlist, but at the same time, if you're accompanying the user seeing these videos in our accompanying the Introduction to Java book, then you're following the pathway, our streamlined pathway to learning Java and more efficiently learning to code in Java. So let's push ahead. Basically, understanding if and statement is crucial for making decisions in your programs. And that is an essential component to any programming job. So in today's video, we'll be exploring how if-else statements work with examples to help you grasp them with ease and basically become better in executing the if-else statements within your Java programs. So in Java, basically, we first need to understand what if-else statements are. So understanding that is the first thing we need to go over. So let's move on to the next thing that we need to go over. So in Java, if-else statements allow programs to make decisions. They check whether a coding condition is true or false and execute different blocks of code based on whether a condition is true or false, basically. Think of it as a traffic signal. If the light is green, you go. Otherwise, you stop. Let's break it down with a simple syntax example. So if you see my screen right now, you'll see this code here, which is basically the syntax of how you implement Java, how you implement if-else statements in Java, basically. So you can just note this down or understand this better. Let's move on to the next thing, though. A little more complicated thing, right? So imagine you're creating a program that checks if a user is eligible to vote. The voting age is 18, so our program should display an appropriate message based on user's age. As you can see on the screen below, we're importing a util scanner method from the util library in Java, and here you can see in voting eligibility, most of our we have if-else statement right from line 10 to 15. And this if-else statement, basically what it does is it checks for the age that is saved from the we've gotten from the user on line 7 and 8, and see if it is 18 or greater. If it is 18 or greater, you're eligible to vote, else you're not eligible to vote. And these two statements are mutually exclusive in the sense that if statement block runs, that is the only block that's going to run. Else block is not going to run. And if the else block runs, the if block is not going to run. So that is basically a simple application that you can talk about when talking about if-else statements. Also, you can see that, let's move on to another example. If we add another else if statement onto this. So what if and the reason we add another else if statement here is because we might want to add more than one condition that we need to test for. So we can add as many else if statements before the else block to add more conditions to test for more conditions other than just one for the decision making process. You can see on the screen next here that we have added an else if statement, and you can add on line 12, but you can add as many else if statements as possible. Here we just are adding one. So here we are differentiating between people 18 and over. In the first if statement, you're an adult and you're eligible to vote. And if you're 13 and greater, you are a teenager, basically, right? But you're not eligible to vote, else you're just a child. And here there's one aspect that I want to raise out for you to understand here, is that it is linear execution in Java, right? So if condition would be tested first, else condition will be tested later, else if condition will be tested later. So if you test 13 before the 18 condition, both the 13 and 18 condition would run at the same time if both of them are true, and that doesn't make sense, right? You don't want to run both conditions more at the same time. Else wouldn't run because it's mutually exclusive, but else if conditions are not mutually exclusive, which means if you don't manage the linear execution order of your conditions, you'll be running more than one condition on your if statement if more than one condition meets the requirements, basically, right? So at this point, you need to make sure that the more stringent condition is at the top. So once that executes, anything else below would not execute, basically. So with that, let's move on to the next concept that we need to cover here. Now, let's move on to the common mistakes you need to avoid when dealing with if-else statements. So number one, you need not forget the use of curly braces. If you have more than one statement inside an if-else block, always use curly braces. So don't forget you not using curly braces, because that's going to raise an error in your compilation of your code. Don't forget to misplace the else statement. Else statement should always come after an if statement, never before. If you use it before, it's always going to throw an error in your compilation of your code. And instead of using a single assignment operator, rather than using two assignment operator in conditions, always use a single one. Because remember, a single assignment operator is for assignment, while double checks for equality. So with that, I think we've covered our video, and that's a wrap on if and else statements in Java. These statements are essential for writing dynamic and interactive programs. If you found this video helpful, please don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for more coding tutorials from Smart Architectural Programming. Also, if you're watching this video in our accompanying video series, you have made further progress into chapter 4 and you're learning on regarding Java. Also, check our book on Introduction to Java for a deeper dive into Java programming. And with that, I'm going to wrap up and see you in our next video. Thank you.